Welcome to the depths of our planet's water systems. Beneath the shimmering surface lies a complex web of life, a delicate balance of predator and prey. But today, we are looking at something invisible, a silent traveler moving through this ecosystem. We are here to discuss biomagnification and the Mercury cycle. Our focus today is on the intricate connections within food webs, the concept of trophic levels, and the pervasive issue of pollution. To understand the problem, we must first understand the element itself. What exactly is mercury? It is a heavy metal element, known by the symbol Hg, and it is unique because it is naturally found in rock, but exists as a liquid at room temperature. While it may look fascinating, this element carries a dark secret. It is highly toxic to all living things, capable of causing severe health problems. How does this heavy metal find its way into our pristine waters? The answer lies in the sky. There are natural sources, of course. Volcanoes and massive forest fires release mercury directly into the atmosphere. However, nature isn't the primary culprit here. The big problem stems from human sources. When we burn coal for electricity, engage in gold mining, or dump factory waste, we are pumping massive amounts of mercury into the air and water. Once that mercury is in the air, it eventually falls. It hits the water and sinks, settling deep into the mud where specific types of bacteria live. This is where a critical transformation occurs. These bacteria chemically transform the elemental mercury into something far more dangerous, methylmercury. This is an organic form of the metal that binds to body tissue and, crucially, does not pass through the body. It sticks. To understand how this poison spreads, we must distinguish between two scientific concepts: bioaccumulation and biomagnification. Bioaccumulation is what happens inside a single animal over time. As an animal ages and eats, it absorbs more toxins than it can get rid of. But biomagnification is different. This happens across the entire food chain. As toxins move up the trophic levels, from producers to herbivores to carnivores, the danger intensifies. Let's trace this journey, starting at step 1, the producers. Here we have phytoplankton, microscopic algae. They absorb the methylmercury floating in the water. At this stage, the concentration is incredibly low, perhaps around 0.0001 parts per million. The mercury doesn't kill the algae. Instead, it is stored inside their tiny cells, waiting. Now we move to step 2, the primary consumers or zooplankton. Tiny animals like krill feed on the algae. A single krill must eat thousands of algae cells just to survive each day. Here's the trap. The krill keeps all the mercury from every single algae cell it consumed. The poison is no longer dilute. It is getting concentrated. The cycle continues to step 3, the secondary consumers, such as small fish. Consider a sardine. Throughout its lifetime, it eats hundreds of krill to stay alive. The sardine inherits all the mercury from all those krill, who, remember, carried the mercury from thousands of algae. The concentration multiplies again. We are now entering dangerous territory at step 4, the tertiary consumers, the big fish. Take a tuna, for example. A tuna eats thousands of sardines over its entire life in the ocean. At this stage, the mercury binds tightly to the muscle, the meat of the tuna. It is important to know that this mercury cannot be cooked out or cut away. The concentration is now considered high, reaching levels of 0.5 to 1.0 parts per million. His phenomenon defies the usual rules of nature. In ecology, we have the 10% rule of energy flow. Usually, only 10% of energy moves up the food chain, while 90% is lost as heat. But with toxins, the opposite is true. Nearly 100% of the toxin moves up the food chain. While energy decreases, toxins increase as you climb the pyramid. Finally, we reach the apex predators, creatures like sharks, swordfish, king mackerel, and tilefish. These animals live a long time and eat huge meals. Consequently, they act as a sink for all the pollution in the ecosystem. They possess the highest levels of mercury found in nature. Why does this happen? Why does the mercury stay? The biological reality is that our bodies and fish bodies are terrible at getting rid of heavy metals. It is not easily excreted. Instead, mercury accumulates in critical organs, the brain, the kidneys, and the liver. This persistence causes levels to build up steadily over years. This is not just a theory. History has shown us the devastating consequences. In 1956, the world learned of Minamata disease. A factory in Japan dumped mercury waste directly into Minamata Bay for decades. The local population ate the contaminated fish daily. The results were horrifying. Cats started dancing and dying, and people lost the ability to talk or walk. It was a tragic event that proved just how dangerous biomagnification can be. Today, we understand the health impacts on humans much better. Mercury is a neurotoxin. It poisons the nerves. Symptoms can include numbness in the hands, vision loss, and memory problems. The most vulnerable among us are pregnant women and young children. For them, the stakes are incredibly high, as mercury prevents the baby's brain from developing correctly. Does this mean we must stop eating seafood? No, we simply need to follow the seafood guide for safe eating. The key is to eat low on the food chain. Species like salmon, shrimp, pollock, and tilapia are safe choices rich in healthy omega-3s. You should, however, avoid those high on the food chain. Shark, swordfish, and orange roughy contain dangerous mercury levels. How do we know which fish are safe? Through rigorous testing and monitoring. Scientists catch fish and test their tissue samples in laboratories to measure mercury concentration. Based on this data, government agencies like the EPA and FDA issue advisories. If you see a sign saying, "Do not eat bass from this lake," it is a warning based on biomagnification data. We must also recognize that this is an issue of environmental justice. Pollution often affects indigenous communities and fishermen most severely and disproportionately. Populations that rely on subsistence fishing, eating what they catch to survive, are at the highest risk of mercury exposure. To solve this, we must reduce the source. Technology offers solutions, such as installing scrubbers on coal power plant smokestacks to trap mercury before it enters the atmosphere. Furthermore, switching to renewable energy like solar and wind reduces coal burning entirely. Even at home, the proper disposal of old thermometers and batteries prevents contamination. Mercury does not respect borders. It is a global cycle. Mercury released in China can end up in fish in California because the atmosphere moves pollution globally. This requires international cooperation. Treaties like the Minamata Convention aim to reduce mercury use worldwide. In summary, we must remember two main things. First, mercury enters the water from air pollution and travels up the food chain, increasing in concentration at every step, a process called biomagnification. And second, eating lower on the food chain, choosing smaller fish, is safer for your health and helps protect vulnerable populations. By understanding this cycle, we can make better choices for ourselves and our planet.